I woke up to find that I had joined XRP's top 10% of holders overnight without buying any extra coins. It sounds almost impossible, right? Well, something strange was happening to the XRP rich list, and I had to get to the bottom of it. You see, I've been holding XRP for years. I've weathered the crazy ups, the crashing downs, the wild rumors, you name it. But nothing prepared me for the surprise that I got this morning. Now, a buddy of mine shot me a text message at 7 a.m. saying, "Dude, check the XRP rich list now," and my heart skips a beat. Why? Because what could have possibly have changed so much overnight? So I rub the sleep out of my eyes, I pull up the data, and I nearly spit out my coffee. This can't be real. I'm suddenly in the top 10% of all XRP holders. Me, the guy who didn't buy any extra XRP last night. How on earth did I level up in the holding rankings while I was asleep? Now, I knew I had to share this rather bizarre story because if it happened to me, then it may have actually happened to you or some other people within the XRP community. And it might just say something huge about what is going on with XRP. Okay, let's just rewind a little bit for context here. Just a couple of weeks ago, XRP's price did a kind of wild swan dive. Now I'm talking about a price drop down to around $2.70 per coin in just a blink of an eye. Right now, if you were watching your portfolio that day, you know the kind of feeling. It's kind of like when a roller coaster plunges and your stomach lurches. Now, my portfolio was not looking pretty. I was kind of white-knuckled kind of through that ride. But then I almost as quickly, I should say, XRP kind of clawed its way back to around $3, basically right back to where it was in late August. Crisis averted, right? Well, it's the same price, but nothing to see here, or so I thought. Now here is where it gets weird. Despite XRP's price recovering and just kind of loitering around at some kind of $3 mark, something did actually change. The XRP rich list. Now, if you're not familiar, the rich list is this community-driven tracker that shows how much XRP you need to be in the top 10%, the top 5%, the top 1%, etc. Right, of holders. You kind of get it. Now, think of it like the VIP leaderboard then for XRP hodlers. Now, it appeals to that kind of little part of us that kind of wonders, where do I rank among all of the XRP holders in the world? Now, don't act like you've never really wondered. Anyway, 2 weeks ago, I checked that list. And yes, I do check it from time to time. There's no shame, honestly. But back then, to be in the top 10% of XRP holders, you actually needed around 2,396 XRP. Now, I remember that number quite clearly because, well, I had been eyeing it up. Roughly 2,400 XRP was kind of your entry ticket to the elite club. So at that time, with XRP being around $3, that stash was kind of worth around $7,188. It's not chump change, but it's also not an impossible amount either for a kind of determined investor. But we fast forward to this morning and the rich list now says that you only need 2,377 XRP to be in that top 10%. I was like, wait, what? Right? It got even easier to be in the top 10%. Now, they lowered the kind of velvet rope for the VIP section when the price hasn't even moved. Now, that's kind of like going to an exclusive club that you've been kind of dying to get into and finding out that they've actually relaxed the dress code and you suddenly are on the guest list. I was just flabbergasted. Sure, the difference is maybe tiny, 19 XRP fewer than before. Now, at around $3 a pop, that's around, $57? It's not like a kind of, I woke up a millionaire overnight or anything like that, but to me, it kind of felt like spotting a glitch in the Matrix, right? This little change was a clue, hinting at a much bigger story. And guess what, right? It wasn't just a one-off fluke either. A couple of weeks before that, earlier in August, the threshold was even higher, at around 2,433 XRP, so roughly $7,299 back then. So over the past month or so, the price of admission to the top 10% club actually slid from, 2,433 to 2,396 and is now just 2,377 XRP, all while XRP's price was basically treading water at the same range. It's kind of like a slow drip, but it's definitely a trend. So by now I'm scratching my head here. How can the kind of required XRP to be in a top holder shrink while the price stays flat? If anything, I would actually expect the opposite. If the price had crashed, maybe some weak hands, actually drop out and whales scoop up some more, raising the bar. Or if the price had pumped, FOMO buyers might push their way up, also raising the bar. But here, the price was sleepy, yet the rich list thresholds were quietly shifting downwards. So I needed answers. I did what any sensible crypto nerd would do. I hopped into our free educational Discord server where a bunch of us XRP geeks kind of hang out. And I asked, is anyone else seeing this? The top 10% requirement just fell, right? Am I crazy? And within seconds, replies started pouring in that I was not hallucinating. Others saw it too, and theories were flying left and right. Some wondered if a few whales, huge XRP holders, had kind of cashed out or moved their funds, which might lower the bar for the rest of us. Like if one of the big boys kind of leaves the pool, well, you don't need to swim as fast to kind of get into the top 10%. You know what I mean? Anyway, others kind of thought that maybe it was just a data quirk or some random short-term anomaly. But then someone pointed out something that made everyone click. The number of wallets. Now, it turns out that at least a ton of new wallets have entered the scene. And when I say a ton, I mean thousands. So at the time of the last rich list check, there was about 690,984 addresses in the top 10%. And now it's 696,777 addresses. That's almost 6,000 new addresses that muscled their way into the top 10% bracket in just 2 weeks. The top 5%, that tier, well, that saw a rather similar bump. About 2,896 new wallets joined that group. Even the ultra elite, the 1% club, got roughly 580 new members. Now, those are some serious growth numbers, especially for a short time span. So, what is the deal? Let's think about it. By early September kind of crash, it kind of put XRP on sale at $2.70. And a bunch of savvy, or maybe just brave, people actually took advantage. Right? They loaded up on XRP during the dip. They didn't necessarily buy tens of thousands of XRP each, but maybe a few hundred here, 1,000 over there, enough that maybe some of them crossed that magic 2,377 XRP line and landed in the top 10%. And voila, the rich list threshold budges down. So it's kind of like a potluck dinner example then, right? Previously, to be one of the top contributors, you would needed, to bring in 2,396 cupcakes, figuratively speaking. Now, a whole bunch of new people show up at the party, each bring in, let's say, 2,300 to 2,400 cupcakes. Suddenly, the smallest contribution among the top contributions is a little bit less than before because, well, so many people have already hovering around that kind of cutoff area. Now, the bar to entry actually drops just slightly when more people crowd in at the lower end of the top tier. Now, when that clicked in my head, it was a real aha kind of moment. Right? The falling threshold wasn't because whales left the building, it's because the crowd at the door got bigger. Right? A wave of new XRP believers rushed on in during the dip, swelling the ranks of the rich list. Even if, each individual only brought a modest bag, right? Honestly, I got kind of goosebumps just realizing this. It's kind of like we were kind of caught we caught a snapshot of the XRP community growing in real time, even while the market looked a little shaky. Now, as a kind of long-time holder, this trend actually makes me quite happy. Right? More people holding XRP, even if it is in smaller amounts, means that the community is broadening. So in theory, a broader distribution is good for the network, less concentration of coins in a few hands, more believers sharing the pie, so power to the people, right? The XRP army, of course, isn't just the same kind of generals. It's actually getting fresh recruits by the day. But I'm not going to lie, a part of me was a tad concerned at first. Right? That little voice in my head went, wait, is this happening because some big players quietly dumped their XRP and just walked away? Like if a whale holding 50,000 XRP splits into smaller accounts or sells a chunk, well, the top 10% could indeed dip too. Now, could this be a bad sign hiding in plain sight? Are there smart money people cashing out while a bunch of newbies, maybe even suckers, are piling on in, thus lowering the bar? So I chewed on that thought, but then I looked at the price action again and gave it a sanity check. Right? If a bunch of whales were dumping heavy, during those weeks, well, the price probably wouldn't have stopped at $2.70 and bounced back to $3 so quickly. It's likely that we've actually kept sliding much further under that sell pressure, right? Or at least stayed down for longer. Instead, we saw a pretty swift rebound after the dip. Now that tells me that buyers were hungry at those lower prices, and those buyers look an awful lot like this swarm of smaller investors rather than a few whales exiting their stage left. In fact, I'll confess, I was one of those buyers, right? When XRP dipped down towards that $2.70 area, I felt like a kid in a candy store during a clearance sale. I couldn't resist grabbing up a little bit more for myself, so I hopped onto BitGet. That's one of the exchanges that I use, and yes, it is an affiliate link that is in the description down below that supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. Anyway, I bought a few extra XRP while they were actually essentially on sale, and can you blame me? Right? I've been in this game long enough to know that if you have conviction in a project, a good dip is a Black Friday deal. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your own responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so that's the disclaimer done. We had to say it. The last thing I want is someone thinking that my enthusiasm here is me telling you to go all in. No, that's not the case. I'm just sharing what I'm doing and what I'm seeing, right? It's your money and it's your decisions. I'm not going to say, I'm not a financial advisor. And in my case, my decision was to accumulate just a little bit more during that dip. The funny thing is that even if I hadn't bought those extra coins, I still would have actually woken up in the top 10% thanks to the threshold dropping. That also blows my mind. It's kind of like winning a race, but I didn't even know that I was running in the first place. All right, let's zoom out here for a second. Top 10% holders sounds fancy, right? But in raw numbers, it's not actually an astronomical amount of XRP, right? Around 2,377 tokens. That's apparently the golden ticket right now. Now, at current prices, that's roughly $7,100 worth of XRP. It's not cheap, but also not a millionaire's stash either. Though for perspective, when I first got into XRP back in 2017, 2,400 XRP would have sent me back around $500. Seriously, right? The price of a new gaming console back then. Now, you could, of course, secure a spot in today's top 10% climb if we'd only known, right? So get this. Right? If you go back, at least way back to 2013, supposedly around $36 could have bought you 2,400 XRP, $36. Of course, almost nobody knew or cared about XRP in 2013 except a handful of OGs. Now, that same 2.4K XRP bag is worth a decent used car. Kind of crazy, right? Now, it recently shows, or really does show, I should say, how far this ecosystem has come. Sometimes I imagine the future, right? If XRP ever hits, I don't know, let's say $10, right? A guy can dream, right? But those 2,377 XRP would be worth nearly $24,000. Now, that's not saying that it's going to happen, but thinking about the possibilities like that is pretty wild. It puts everything into perspective how these kind of little changes today could actually mean a big thing further down the line. Now, all of these kind of thoughts got me thinking about the new people coming in right now. I was chatting with a newcomer in our Discord just the other day, and he told me that he bought his first bag of XRP last week, taking advantage of that dip that we've been kind of talking about. He actually used a platform called Blowfin to do it, and since they had a nice little sign-up bonus for new users. Now, I may or may not have shared my own Blowfin affiliate link with him because, hey, if you're going to sign up anyway, you might as well use the link that supports the channel here, right? Anyway, he was excited to finally become an XRP holder, even though his stack is nowhere near the top 10% or anything like that. His enthusiasm was contagious, and it honestly kind of reminded me of younger me, in fact, when I first discovered crypto altogether. And here's the thing. Numbers and ranks are pretty cool for bragging rights, but ultimately, what really matters is being part of a community, believing in what you hold. Whether you have 100 XRP or 10,000 or even 100,000 XRP, if you're excited about the project, you're learning, and you're growing with the community, then you're already winning in my book. Now, not to kind of get too sappy with this, but this rich list update kind of felt like a snapshot of the XRP community's heartbeat. Right? And right now, the heartbeat says that new people are joining, and us veterans are still here too. Now, did you know that there are almost 7 million XRP wallets out there, at least right now, and we're closing in on that milestone, right? Now, it wasn't that long ago that we were celebrating 5 million, right? Seeing that number grow is kind of like watching a city expand. More people, more voices, more ideas. And okay, sometimes more drama. It is crypto after all. But it also kind of means resilience. The fact that XRP's price can face plant to $2.70 and then thousands of people say, heck yeah, bargain time, and jump on in. Right? That says a lot. It says confidence. It says the XRP army is alive and it is kicking. Now, I won't pretend to have a crystal ball. I don't know if next month these rich list thresholds will drop even more or spike all the way back up. If XRP moons, then maybe the threshold shoots up again because, everyone and their mother starts buying, and whales might even accumulate more. Or if the market dips, maybe even more little guys like us will kind of seize the chance to join the club, pushing the threshold down even further, right? Anything can happen. But one thing is for sure, I'm going to be watching this metric like a hawk. It's because, at least it's become, I should say, one of my most favorite things to actually track, because it's not just about the price, it's actually about the people. It's kind of a story unfolding, but with numbers instead. Now, as I kind of sit here reflecting on this weird, wonderful morning, I kind of feel both proud and, curious. I'm proud that I can say that for now, anyway, I'm among the top 10%. It's a kind of cool, kind of personal milestone. And I'm also curious about what it signals for the future, right? I imagine telling this story to someone a few years ago, or at least a few years from now, I should say, and say, hey, remember that time in 2025 when the XRP rich list threshold actually fell and we all kind of freaked out trying to figure out why? Well, I have a feeling that I'll be going down, at least it'll be going down as one of those kind of most interesting little chapters in my own crypto journey. And so here is my takeaway. Sometimes the most interesting shifts in crypto, they aren't in the candlesticks on a chart, but they're actually in the behavior of the holders behind the scenes. Today's rich list update kind of shows me that the XRP community isn't stagnating. It's actually evolving. The doors to the elite club opened just a little bit wider, and a flood of new faces stepped on through. Now, as a long-time holder, that puts a smile on my face. It's proof that interest in XRP is strong and growing, even in the face of price volatility. It also reminds me why I got into crypto in the first place. It's not just about the potential of gains, right? It's actually being a part of a movement with others, riding this roller coaster together. Whether you're holding a ton of XRP or just a tiny bag, we're all part of this story, right? We scream on the way down, we cheer on the way up, and sometimes we celebrate the weird little wins, like accidentally joining the top 10% club overnight. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. So for now, you can hit that like button, subscribe for more stories like this, and I'll catch you in the next one.